Hi everyone, today we're going to be discussing the vice president opportunities for the former vice president Joe Biden, who's now the presumptive Democratic nominee. So, as you can see, there's quite a few, figures here. We've got, Senator Klobuchar, you know, Tammy Duckworth, Elizabeth Warren, Gretchen Whitmer, Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams, Joe Biden. Obviously, he's the one choosing all of those people. But this isn't it, and a lot of people will go, I know Joe Biden will most definitely pick Stacey Abrams or Elizabeth Warren or Gretchen Whitmer or Kamala Harris. There's a lot to choose from, and by no means has the Biden campaign finalized their decision yet. But I think they've definitely kind of got it down to a long list. So I have got 10 female vice presidential candidates here that I think would probably do well. Now, I just remembered I do have some notes on slide 7 that tells everyone what they are, so we'll skip over to slide 8. So I've got them in the following categories. So we've got governors, we've got senators, we've got House members, and we've got non-politicians. So these 11 people all fit into one of those four categories. So on the governors list, we have two governors here. Firstly, we have Michelle Lujan Grisham, who's the governor of New Mexico. She not as well known throughout the country, but definitely a possibility. She would do well in New Mexico. She'll definitely lock up New Mexico, Colorado. She might be able to make Arizona competitive. There's a lot of benefits to having a Lujan Grisham on the ticket. However, I think that it's pretty clear that those benefits clearly are outweighed by the negatives of having Lujan Grisham. Firstly, New Mexico isn't a competitive state anyway, so it's not like she would lock up a state like some of the other vice presidential candidates might do. Also, she doesn't have much name recognition. She's not really an exciting figure, and I think it would be very unlikely. And I don't think Biden would do well to pick Michelle Lujan Grisham if if he were to do that. The second governor, I think, is much more likely. We have Gretchen Whitmer. So Gretchen Whitmer is the governor of Michigan. So the thing with Gretchen Whitmer is that she has been one of Trump's most vocal critics. I think if you did pick someone like a Whitmer, obviously younger than Biden, doesn't have some of the same demographic advantages in that she is not a person of color as such, obviously not, but she is a woman, and that's definitely something. Obviously, he's committed to picking a woman as his vice presidential nominee, but Gretchen Whitmer, to be honest, I think that she would be one of the strongest picks that I have on this list. I think Gretchen Whitmer, she's the governor of Michigan. She's a popular governor of Michigan. She's been feuding with Trump recently. I think that Whitmer definitely someone to keep an eye on. But again, one of the disadvantages, she does not have one of the name recognition as some of these other people, and that's definitely not that great. But with Gretchen Whitmer, I think that if you had Gretchen Whitmer, a popular governor of Michigan, quite frankly, I think that you would be able to. I think you would be able to, still with boots on the ground and campaigning, but I think you would definitely start off as a definite favorite in Michigan. If it's a Biden Whitmer ticket, I would put Michigan in the likely Democratic column because she is a popular governor, and I think that definitely helps her. So Gretchen Whitmer, someone to keep an eye on. Okay, moving on to the House members. So one person that's frequently mentioned is Florida House member Val Demings. So Val Demings, she was one of the House impeachment managers into the impeachment of President Trump. But at the end of the day, you can't really make that much of a case for her. I mean, if you did pick her and you went like all in on Florida, then maybe you might be able to pick up Florida, but even then, it's definitely a stretch. And and I don't think it would probably be the easiest Democratic path to victory if you picked up Florida. But anyway, Val Demings doesn't have the name recognition. She One advantage of her would be a demographic case to make. Young African American woman from Florida. So I do see the benefits, but at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of other candidates you could choose from, and I don't think she would necessarily lock up Florida in the way that I think Gretchen Whitmer might do that for the state of Michigan, which the Democrats already have a fighting chance at, whereas Florida, it's starting to peel away from them. Another House member I really don't see mentioned often enough, but I do think definitely keep an eye on this House member, Katie Porter. Hasn't been speculated, but I do think that Porter definitely someone to keep an eye on. She's famous or infamous for her grilling of Trump nominees to different offices or grilling of different witnesses, and explaining things on a whiteboard, right? And so I can see a lot of benefits in picking Katie Porter. Definitely, most likely, I would say, have more name recognition than someone like a Val Demings. But Katie Porter, at the end of the day, not much experience, mind you. That's not really somewhere where Biden needs to make something up. Unlike someone like Obama, I mean, if you could imagine like an Obama Porter ticket, it wouldn't happen because none of them would have much experience. But Katie Porter, interesting speculation. I think she's not being talked about enough as a VP, but at the end of the day, I think there's better options than someone like a Katie Porter. Also, no demographic advantages, and the third reason is she's from California, and that doesn't need any locking up anyway. So, the non-politicians, I've got one person on this list, and that is former Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams. Sorry, just having a sip of my water here. But Stacey Abrams, I think she might be a bit oversold for a VP possibility because yes, she would, she might be able to put Georgia in play, but I mean, at the end of the day, you do have to take into account the fact that she does not have much political experience. Stacey Abrams doesn't, and so that's definitely might be an issue. Again, like Katie Porter, that might not be so much of a disadvantage because again, Biden already has lots of political experience. Name recognition is good. I think she's a strong pick. I'm still not exactly sold on her, but I think that she would definitely be towards the top of a Biden VP list, which I'm actually going to go through at the end of this video actually. Okay, moving on to the senators. Okay, I have I believe there's 6 senators. Okay, yeah, there is 6 senators on this list. And all the senators, they're in the order of the last name, alphabetically ordered by their last name. So obviously that means we're starting off with Tammy Baldwin, the Wisconsin senator. I think that she would be a purely strategical pick because she would be able to lock up Wisconsin. Again, never want to say lock up because, nothing's ever safe. No state is ever safe for one political party. But Tammy Baldwin, I think, would be a strategical pick. Worth noting, she is openly gay. So I think that the fact that she's openly gay might counteract some demographic arguments that she's just a white senator. But I think Baldwin is probably being a bit undersold as a VP pick possibility. But the thing with Tammy Baldwin is her name recognition is just not very high, and obviously that'll improve with time. but I think Baldwin would be a pretty good pick overall. Tammy Duckworth. So Tammy Duckworth is very, very interesting. So on her personal background, she was a veteran from the war in Iraq. She lost both legs in that war, as you can see here, in a wheelchair. Uh, I believe she was born in Thailand, which is interesting. But overall, I'm not really seeing the case for a Biden Duckworth ticket, mostly because, and I really, really hate the fact that this is the case, but the fact of the matter is that it is the case. And the thing is that and I think the Biden campaign knows this, a lot of people are going to feel uncomfortable, especially with Biden's age, having a disabled woman at the top of the ticket. And I think that that's very, very not a good thing, but that's the fact of the matter. So I think that on paper she looks good. Illinois senator, and that's another thing. There's a few things running against Duckworth. There's that. That's 12 o'clock now. But there's quite a few things running against Duckworth right now, and I'm really like not seeing it. But for the main reason, I do feel for her, obviously, uh, because the main reason why I think she won't get picked is because of of the fact that she is disabled. But a few other things writing against her. Firstly, name recognition doesn't have all that much name recognition, and secondly, from Illinois, it wouldn't lock up a state because Biden's gonna win Illinois anyway. Okay, moving on. Kamala Harris. So this is probably the most talked about VP candidate. In my opinion, I think she's probably a little bit oversold as a VP, but nonetheless, I think has a very, very strong chance of being the VP if she wanted to be the VP. So Kamala Harris, I mean, you've heard it before, I'll say it again. I would say three main things that are going in her favor. Firstly, demographics. Secondly, that her name recognition. But the two things that I think might not be as well for her is her debate with Biden over busing. That's definitely going to help hurt her. I think that if the Biden campaign wanted to make life difficult for Kamala Harris, they could. In fact, if Kamala never went after Biden that hard, I think that Kamala may very well already be on the ticket with the former vice president. But anyway, Kamala Harris, Biden Harris, I mean, that would be strong. I think that if Harris was the VP, oh, she would just clean up Mike Pence at the debate. She would just totally boom, 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 be the attack dog on Trump. I think she would be strong. I think she's one of the best VP candidates. But the thing really riding against her, she's from California, doesn't add anything onto the ticket. And I think that's something a lot of people aren't taking into consideration. Acting like Kamala is a shoo-in for the vice presidency is not a good thing to do, because then you'll be disappointed if she doesn't get it. Okay, moving on to another person who ran in 2020, Amy Klobuchar. So, sorry, just a second. Okay. So, Senator Klobuchar, interesting, but interesting character in that she could get the VP, but very, very uninteresting as a person. Because that's the thing riding against her. I think that she would be pretty boring as a candidate, honestly. I don't think. By the way, I forgot to mention something for all of these candidates, and I'll just go through those very, very quickly. So let's just move all the way back. Right, okay, the governors. Okay, so just very, very briefly, if they're kind of more progressive, which is an advantage in my opinion. Okay, Michelle Lujan Grisham, no, that would not work. Gretchen Whitmer, I mean, she's okay, a progressive ran against her, but I think that there's other options to look for. House members, Val Deming's normal Democrat. Katie Porter is a progressive, I would say. So that could be an advantage in choosing someone like a Porter. Non-politician Stacey Abrams, kind of in between both camps. Obviously not as progressive as the Sanders Warren, but maybe not all the way on Biden's edge of the party. The senators, Tammy Baldwin is quite a progressive senator actually, so that could work in her favor. Tammy Duckworth, quite a progressive as well. Kamala Harris, I mean, I wouldn't say she's that progressive, but I think she could get it. Amy Klobuchar, definitely not that progressive. Um, so Senator Klobuchar, I think, could get the VP just based on having Minnesota with her. I think in terms of pros for Senator Klobuchar, let's see if I can bring up a whiteboard here. No, I can't. I cannot do that. Okay. So pros for Senator Amy Klobuchar. Firstly, from Minnesota, that's good. Secondly, name recognition. People have got to know her in the primary. But things counting against her, not really that progressive. She's a bit of a kind of boring candidate as well. But she would lock up Minnesota, which would be beneficial for the Biden campaign and perhaps even make her kind of competitive in some of the other states. Moving through, Catherine Cortez Masto, the senator from Nevada. She doesn't have much name recognition. The pros for picking someone like a Cortez Masto would be locking up Nevada. It would lock up Nevada by default. But I think the disadvantages definitely outweigh name recognition. No one knows, Masto who, right? Catherine Cortez Masto who. No one knows who Catherine Cortez Masto who. No one knows who Cortez Masto is. And also, she just, again, no name recognition. And she really doesn't add anything to the ticket, right? And she wouldn't appeal to progressives. So I think Cortez Masto would be a pretty poor choice. Okay, the final person, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. So, advantages for choosing Senator Warren. Okay, firstly, there would obviously be, Biden would be able to get progressives on board. Very, very important. She would lock up Massachusetts, but obviously Biden can lock up Massachusetts by himself. But obviously she would help, I think, get some vote. I think that she would help get voters in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, based on kind of her populist economic message. Mind you, that kind of has shifted throughout the campaign. But I think she would get Bernie supporters on board with the Biden camp, despite whatever tussles Bernie and Warren have had. However, I at the end of the day, I don't see as much of a case for Warren as some of these others. Firstly, obviously, pro of Elizabeth Warren, name recognition, right? Everyone knows who Warren is, and progressives. But cons of Senator Warren would be, firstly, Biden has said he wants someone who's on the same page with him on the issues. So that kind of rules out Warren. But I still think that Biden would be able to pick Warren if he wanted to, and I think Warren would accept that, accept the position of VP. I mean, I think all of these candidates, if they were tapped for VP, would you know, choose to be the VP, and they wouldn't turn Biden down, I don't think. But again, disadvantages. I think that Warren may be too much of a polarizing figure. Again, she does have name recognition, but it's not necessarily favorable name recognition. Secondly, this is more of a practical aspect. If Warren was the VP and she became vice president, then what could happen is that the Republican, in Massachusetts, the Republican governor would get to pick the senator, especially for the next, 2 or 3 years until they can call an election, in which that election the Democrat would win. But the Republican, they would get to pick a Republican senator, so that would not be beneficial having a GOP senator from Massachusetts. But so that wouldn't be the best for the Democrats, and that would not help them in their bid to have Senate control. So overall, and another disadvantage for Elizabeth Warren is she's getting up there in age. I'm not sure, and she wouldn't be someone who, definitely would be able to run in like 2024, 2028. Okay, now moving on to the rankings, we're just going to go through this very, very quickly. I already explained everything, but just in order: Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, Representative Val Demings, Michelle Lujan Grisham of New Mexico, sorry, Val Demings of Florida, Representative Katie Porter of California, Senator Tammy Duckworth of Illinois, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada, Mrs. Stacey Abrams of Georgia, Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin, Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, and Senator Kamala Harris of California. So those in order I see as the 11, sorry for the not good round number there, most likely people to be the vice president for Joe Biden. So that's it for today's video, guys. Let me just quickly go back to the thumbnail of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I do hope to see you all. By the way, that was just my notes there. Thank you so much for watching, and I do hope to see you all in the next video. Thank you for watching, and good night.